Yeah, pretty much.
It's because we're both nerds. We both look the same. Huh? You can't tell it's apart.
It's very. I mean, it's because you're both nerds and you look great and everybody loves you. And welcome to the Down in Front Podcast, the official podcast of downinfrontpodcast.com. Here, what we do is review movies, TV shows, games, just about anything and everything nerdy. And so I'm super pumped. I'm super excited for tonight. We will be talking about one of the newest, not quite MCU, but maybe sort of MCU universe films called Deadpool 2, starring Ryan Reynolds and a bunch of amazing people in his hilarious cast. One of the biggest films that actually going to be kind of branching off from arguably one of the largest R-rated films I think that come out in February. To have like one of the best sort of opening. So super pumped to be talking about that. Super pumped to be kind of reviewing for a few of my best friends. What we do is that we're going to be reviewing and then we're going to be drinking some stuff and watching some other stuff. So pretty excited to be talking to and introducing the lovely. I'm so glad he's finally back in Massachusetts, although I am not there, which I'm kind of sad about. But Mr. B. Ryland, the mouth of the South. How's it going, man? What you been watching?
Well. I'm doing well. I just got back from the weekend from fishing in the Ozark Mountains in Arkansas. So that was a lot of fun, very relaxing. And what I've been drinking, decided to go with a bottle of wine tonight. And I have a very detailed, very scientific method of choosing what is going to be a good wine, which is does it have a cool label or not? And so this one stuck out to me. It's called Trim in California. It's got a label you would probably see on a bottle of wine you'd pick up at a modern art museum gift shop. And it is black and red, just like our hero that we're going to talk about in this movie today. And it tastes kind of mild. I usually prefer a Cabernet to have a bolder flavor, but this feels like someone just did a drive-by and watered down my wine, and now I have to drink it. And so it's kind of bland.
That's kind of a bummer.
Yeah. What I've been watching is I watched the latest film adaptation of Fahrenheit 451, which is personally I consider one of the best novels ever written. And this one starred Michael B. Jordan, Michael Shannon, and it is a modern retelling of the Ray Bradbury story about a society that burns books to keep the populace in check. And it's like always about like that government sanctioned ideology versus free will story that can definitely work in a post-apocalyptic futures and everything. I feel like they try their best to do a modern take on it to talk about some of the issues happening today, but it's way too heavy-handed and it's not really that good of an adaptation. Michael B. Jordan and Michael Shannon, they're great actors and they do a solid job. But yeah, the rest of the movie, they're trying to just force it down your throat like, hey, this is the modern way of how we're going to handle this, and it just becomes very heavy-handed and doesn't really play off that well.
That's a bummer. I was actually really excited to hopefully kind of catch that. For some reason, I thought it was a series and not more so of a movie, but I do like Michael Jordan. I do like Michael Shannon. But, where did you watch that again?
HBO.
Okay, cool.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Brylan, do they, as it's a modern adaptation, do they address the like ebooks? Do they burn ebooks too? Do they like bash iPads and stuff?
Yeah, they definitely expanded. They call it like we're going to ban graffiti, and they talk about like they have their own internet system, and that there's a dark internet is where people are trying to store book information, and they're not necessarily going after just books. It's also any type of media content that, express some type of free will or creativity. So like you see a Blockbuster video cartridge of Taxi Driver, or a love note index card that's written on a Washington D.C. postcard, and it's just like a love letter from a person to another. So it's all kind of like mementos, but also any type of entertainment that was made that they burn.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I was just curious how they were gonna like work around that.
Yep.
Nice. But Brylan, it's great to have you back. Great to see your face, as always. And hopefully that we can always get together to have a live podcast soon. So hashtag stick for that. Although that wine is not very good, I hope you still drink it.
I will.
I'm going to toss it over to the beautiful. Literally, we took a poll earlier last week, and he was actually voted, sadly, the least liked podcast member of the Down in Front podcast. Mocha Mike here, coming back. How's it going, man? Good to see you.
Damn right, baby. I'm number one in something. How's it going? I'm doing pretty good. I'm excited. I'm excited to be here to talk about comic book movies, which happens to be my favorite thing to talk about, whether there are people around to hear me or not. As for what I'm drinking tonight, I'm keeping it simple, because I've been to way too many IMAX showings here in New York City lately to have any sort of budget for alcohol. So I'm just drinking a regular old Coors, tall boy. We're going with the OG Coors because that's the tasty one. And as for what I've been watching, I recently wrapped up the season finale of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I know that not everyone in this group has seen it, so I'm going to go a little light in the spoilers. But for a show that's been around for 5 years, this season finale was a really good culmination of pretty much every character arc they had laid down throughout these previous seasons. It really felt like they had no idea whether or not they were going to get renewed or not before they filmed it, because it felt like a series finale. But they did get a green light for a half season long, or like a half of a usual season's length, season 6 for next summer. So we'll be seeing more, but I liked it. I know not everyone does, but it's a fun little show to have every week from Marvel.
Well, Mocha, thanks for kind of coming on. We missed you on the last podcast, but really excited to get some of your input, especially about more of a Marvel sort of comic book movie. I'm going to toss it over to the host of the Fear Boners, one of my best friends, Andrew Abbott. How's it going, man?
Good. It's going well. Thanks for having me tonight. Always enjoyed talking about comic book movies with you knuckleheads. And I have a fun little story about how I wound up drinking what I'm drinking tonight. I took the long way home after work, and I wandered into a packy that I don't normally go into, and it was dimly lit. And I looked along the aisles and the rows, and everything was far too expensive for my budget until I got to the end, the farthest reaches of the aisle. And I found this old, dusty plastic bottle, probably covered with the residual skin flakes of people who had worked in that liquor store 10 years ago. And I read the label, and it said, Chi-Chi's Skinny Long Island Iced Tea Mix. And it had a price tag on it that said $5, and it's a gallon jug. So I grabbed that. It's what I'm drinking. It's pretty terrible. I don't think it's going to hit me like those Four Locos did, but we'll see by the end of this podcast. As for what I'm watching, I've been on a Takashi Miike kick since I recorded that Fear Boners, which at the time this is released, I don't know if it's going to be out yet, but he has an upcoming release, a U.S. release of his movie As the Gods Will, which I watched recently, and I've been going back, getting ready to try and find his most recent adaptation of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. He did a live-action adaptation of that series, so I've been going back and actually watching that show. That's an anime, and it's pretty ridiculous. It's basically a bunch of bros going around the world, saving the world, being ridiculous. But now there's a lot of Nazis, and I don't know how I feel about it. So fun for a Japanese cartoon, but pretty insane. Definitely recommend it if you're into over-the-top, crazy anime action.
Yeah, that's one of my kind of animes and like mangas that I'm like kind of hold off because I'm not entirely sure which one I want to start first, whether the anime or the manga. It's been hanging out for a while, so nothing but kind of positive reviews from what I heard from that one.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. It's interesting though, because I realized after I watched the first series that technically the way that it's at least displayed on Crunchyroll is that a few years later they did a recut version of the original series. So now I don't feel like I need to go back and rewatch it, but I watched the original cut, so I'm not going to be a completist that way.
You can do whatever you want to do. It's 2018.
It's true. It's 2018.
Well, Adam, exactly. It's always great to hear your voice and see your baby face. So that's great. I'm going to toss it over to the Shredder, the cool Michael. How's it going, man? It's great to see you. I see that you're looking quite dapper today.
Yeah, I'm wearing my 500 shirt because the Celtics are 500 and it's killing me very, very slowly. Hopefully, by the time this gets released, we are better than that and we're beating the Cleveland Cavaliers because that's what I've been watching. I've also been watching the first couple episodes of season 4, the recut edition of Arrested Development. The new season comes out, I think, partially next week. They've had like the most ambiguous new season I've ever heard of in my entire life, where like they originally were going to release all of it, and then now they're saying only like 6 of them, and one of the cast members is only in some of them, but they're being ambiguous as whether she's in some of the first half of it or some of the whole. It doesn't make any sense at all. But I freaking love that show, and I can't wait to see new stuff from them, even though they're all like 10 years older now. As for what I'm drinking, I have
Fluid, real quick. Do you find that the recut changes how funny that season 4 is, or makes it better in any way? Or
so I'm not through it all the way. So for y'all that don't know, they took the normal paradigm of like the weekly, you know, this episode is a week later than the last episode type thing, and made this goofy timeline switch in season 4 of Arrested Development. And so they also followed one character for the duration of the episode and then kind of switched them. So they all got, I think, 2, like the main cast each got 2 episodes to kind of like flex their stuff. Now, when you put that together, there's a lot of things that are very unfunny in the first section of season 4 that like make no sense. They're like just things that happen on screen and you're like, sure, why not? At the end, they had the brilliance where they wrapped it up all together. For example, spoiler alert for 5-year-old show, you'd hear this like clicking sound in the background, and then you realized in like the last 2 episodes that George Michael, played by Michael Cera, made a woodblock app, and it's all about keeping time. And so like that was one of the main central themes that you literally could like think back, and they'd show the same scene but from a different perspective, and it was way funnier because you had a greater context of what was going on. So Brown, to your point, I don't know yet because I'm not far enough in that I'm seeing some of those jokes and laughing, but I don't know if it will ever get as funny as the end of that season when you had the full picture and were just losing your mind over every little thing they did.
Yeah.
As for what I'm drinking, I think this is the first time I've ever had this style of beer. It is called a barley wine ale, and it is 11%. So wine. I might not be alive for the conclusion of this podcast. The reason
is a disturbing trend among today's youth.
It's true. It's true.
The reason
I go to high schools across the country to talk about it.
You don't. You're not allowed there. The reason
I'm not allowed within 50 feet of any high school.
The reason that I picked it though, the name of this particular barley wine ale is the Blithering Idiot, and so I thought that was perfectly appropriate for
you,
or the subject of this week's podcast.
Well, Mike, it's always great to see your face and great to hear your voice. Thank you for all the hard work that you do. But
Appreciate it.
I like seeing your face and hearing your voice. Is that okay? Okay, great.
Why is Blewett the only one you ask consent to look at his face? The rest of us you just take for granted.
Because we have a thing going, and I mean, I don't like any of you guys.
I can feel your eyes on my face right now.
It's because of the implication, honestly.
Yeah, it is. And I am Warren. I will be your host for this evening. What I have been watching, I actually finally got a chance. I actually haven't been watching too much. I've been keeping up with like my normal shows, Saturday Night Live. I've been catching up with that. Tina Fey kind of hosted. I thought that was pretty cool. I'm trying to like slowly like Tina Fey's work. Trying to. I haven't been. I just really also don't like Tracy Morgan, but a conversation for another time. So I watched that. I also saw the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I kind of agree with Mocha. I really, really enjoyed the last episode. I thought that was a very strong episode, especially some of the components that they put in there. I didn't see that coming, sort of thing. But there was a good amount of lull in the most recent season that I really was just like, I'm just kind of watching it just so that I can say I watched it. I wasn't really enjoying myself for a good amount of episodes. I think like maybe 4 or 5 straight. I just said, I didn't really care. But the movie I've been watching, has anybody seen on HBO the Hitman's Bodyguard?
No, it's on my watch list though.
Yeah, movies. I mean, it has Ryan Reynolds and Samuel Jackson. They both play hitmen. One's like out of jail, needs to testify. The other one's basically his bodyguards, but they're not. Sorry, excuse me. They're both aren't hitmen, but they both are like trained, and they have like different ideals of like the people to kill and to protect. The movie's fun. It's very funny. You really just see them basically go off script, it feels like. And so I definitely was like, oh, I want to see like more Ryan Reynolds things, and let me see what else he's been in that I haven't seen yet. And so I think I'm pretty sure I saw, what was that? Rest in Peace, RPD or something like that. RIPD. I saw that.
RIPD. Was it the Rest in Peace?
Another based on a comic.
Yeah, exactly. It was like, that wasn't very good, but I saw that, and so this is something I wanted to see that I haven't seen before, or of Ryan Reynolds, and I thought it was fun. So definitely go check that out. That's on HBO now. I am currently drinking 2 old fashions made differently, and so I wanted to kind of select the old fashioned drink because I'm an old fashioned kind of guy.
I'm just gonna put this out there: an old fashioned made differently doesn't sound too old fashioned.
That sounds like a new fashion.
Well, there's one that, because there's one old fashioned they have in this hotel I'm at that is on tap, and so they already kind of pre-did that, and they put some stuff in it, and so it's made differently. The other one has like some fresh kind of ingredients that was a bit more stronger, more potent. So I'm saving that for the spoiler section of this podcast.
Who puts whiskey on tap?
Cocktails on tap is like an emerging trend. Like I'm seeing it all over the place in Brooklyn right now. And I don't know what I feel about it because they're not less expensive, which I feel like if something is mass produced and shipped in a barrel, it should be less expensive than if somebody like handshakes it.
Well, they make it. Well, here's the thing. They make it with.
Thanos needs to visit Brooklyn.
Well, they make it in the actual bar itself, right? They put more stuff on there, then they tap it, and then it slowly dilutes, but it makes it easy to pour. This one was cheaper because this one was their happy hour special. So it was literally $5 cheaper than the normal one, the other one. And I actually got both because I wanted to see which one's better. And for sure, I like the fresher ingredients, the one that's made to order. But I needed to try. But I would say this: if it's a carbonated drink, whether it's a carbonated rosé or a carbonated like a gin and tonic that that has been on tap, it's been absolutely phenomenal. So definitely go check that out because it's so good.
So if a zombie's coming towards you and you have the choice of grabbing a hatchet or a old fashioned from the tap, would you grab the old fashioned from the tap?
Well, here's the thing. Can I ask a question here? Am I going to die anyway?
You might if you
old fashioned
defend yourself. Okay.
Old fashioned from the tap. Absolutely. Gotta die
There's
happy.
a machine out there you can get. It's like $5,000, but you can set it up to have like 3 or 4 different cocktails pre-mixed and tapped.
That doesn't sound like that's a good investment.
I have 3 of them at my house right now. It's the best thing I've ever gotten. But I have them all set up with Chi-Chi's Skinny Long Island iced tea mix.
I don't know if I can get behind this trend.
And Four Loko.
So we're pumped. We're excited. What we're going to do is going to take a quick break, give you a little time to kind of relax, get yourself a drink, go use the bathroom, just hit pause. We're going to get into a full spoiler-filled review of Deadpool 2. So we're excited, and we'll see you soon. And we are back, and we are the Down in Front podcast here tonight. We are going to be reviewing Deadpool 2. Super pumped, super excited. I got Brylan, Mocha, Blewett, Abbott. My name is Warren. I'm going to be excited. I'm going to toss it over. And the way that we kind of broke this episode, a couple different sections. So let's start with, talking about, the acting and the cast alone. We'll talk about a bit of the drama, and then we'll talk about arguably, I think, one of the funniest parts of the movie for a long time. We are in the spoiler section, meaning if you haven't seen this movie yet, definitely would stop the podcast for right now because we will be spoiling the movie. And there's a lot of good jokes. There's a lot of stuff that you can be spoiled about this movie. So definitely there's a huge character you can be spoiled about this movie. So definitely kind of take that into consideration. So let's talk a bit about the acting. Let's talk about the casting. Let's talk about some things that they did well, they didn't do well, all roped up into one. I'm going to toss it over to my best friend, who I love more than everybody else here. Brylan, tell me about the casting and tell me about the acting.
So what they did really well in the first movie was they got a great cast to play all these different parts like Colossus and Negasonic Teenage Warhead, or people that were like kind of tinier bit parts like Dopender, the taxi cab driver, but they all do a really great job, and they continue to really do a great job in this movie. Ryan Reynolds, is still born to play this part, and they give him enough. What's really cool is not only is he great at like the funny stuff, but also there's a lot of we learn a lot about Deadpool's tragic moments in this film and how he copes with like grief and loss, and I think he even does a great job in those moments too. Colossus still.
Can I say one thing? I think if you took Hugh Jackman away from Wolverine and recast him, you could take Chris Evans away from Captain America. I would rather see someone else play Tony Stark than Robert Downey Jr. than Ryan Reynolds playing Deadpool. That is the definitive. Like, there's no one else that can do that. And I get it. It's not as like dramatic as a role of like, having Chris Evans standing up there and, pretend to give that Spider-Man speech, even though Sharon Carter said it, but whatever. But it's one of those things that, like, whenever you see this guy, his mannerisms, what he says, it's all just so freaking perfect and true to the source material.
Yeah. And, it's really cool because, like, this movie is, he does all these extra things to build up to the movie because there is this whole thing of breaking the fourth wall with Deadpool, and he's all in. So it could be like visiting someone to bring them coffee, and he's just acting as Deadpool when he does that, or apologizing for David Beckham, which has nothing to do with the movie, but he does it anyway. And it's really cool to see like how this movie kind of expands beyond just the film itself.
Yo, Brown, one quick thing that's hilarious that you talk about coffee. So spoiler alert, there's one of the X-Force team members that is revealed in a split second to be Brad Pitt. Apparently, Brad Pitt didn't get paid, or he got paid like a negligible amount for that split second. His only request was that Ryan Reynolds go to Starbucks and buy him coffee and hand deliver it to him.
That's so good.
Yeah, the funny thing is Ryan Reynolds forgot to ask for money in return. So he just got it for free.
My favorite thing about that story of how Ryan Reynolds got Brad Pitt to do the role was that his pitch was, what's the most wasteful way to use the most well-known actor in the world? And it was for 8 frames in that one moment.
Yeah, but aside from Ryan Reynolds, just like total commitment to what this role intends. Josh Brolin, we saw how awesome he can be when it is in a superhero movie with Avengers Infinity War. And he plays a great Cable. He is that serious, tough guy that balances out the Deadpool wackiness. And he is kind of like that guy that's like, yeah, this guy irritates the hell out of me, but you know what? He means well, and I just kind of want to make sure he doesn't like blow himself up while trying to save the world or save somebody. So yeah, I guess I'll help him out with that. It's just goes to show that they bring a lot to that character too, that you do learn about like Cable's motivations and who he is and what he means in this movie. So it's good that they spend that time with him. And also I'd say for new characters, Zazie Beetz is really great as Domino. I really enjoyed just her, the amount of fun she took to the role, and just like she was kind of like, hey, I'm lucky and I get what I want, and that's my superpower. And she kind of rolls with that as like she has like this devil may care attitude about like what's going on behind her. There's like this scene where there's a truck exploding behind her, and she's just kind of nonchalantly walking away from it because she knows regardless of what happens, you'll probably be okay. And it was really cool to how they use that mutant power to effect. There were some really cool moments that you expected her to die in a moment, but they come up with something really clever and cool to actually show her luck being established in the film. But she also brings this like this just character that's just up for anything just because she's kind of bored with anything else, that she'll I'll do it. We'll see what type of chaos it'll lead me to. And it's cool to see like that reckless behavior coming from her, because it's definitely a big part of who Domino is in the comics.
I really liked her character. I liked her casting. I was really glad because I didn't realize she was in this movie. I think it was like super last minute that somebody, I'm not naming names, Abbott, ruined the fact that she was in this movie for me. So I was
you're welcome.
Yeah, you bitch. So I was bummed, but I was like, oh, well, I mean, I'm going to like, it's nice to see her kind of expand, but it's also nice to see that she kind of held her own and they gave her some time to kind of grow and just have these like nice, fun little small scenes that didn't last more than maybe a minute, 2 minutes. So I really, really enjoyed that sort of acting, and I really enjoyed that casting for her. I really, really hope that, especially with her quirky superpower, that definitely kind of comes back and we can see more of it, because it was just a delight just to see her, and I also have a huge crush on her. So there you go.
Yeah. And Leslie, I'll just mention that all the people they chose to play X-Force characters, they were like great choices for each character they played. And even it's good to see Boston's own Rob Delaney hanging out as Peter. So that was he's a nice, funny character, and he had some nice, funny lines as well.
Yeah, I don't care too much for Rob Delaney, but I loved the character that he played in this movie. He was like the gentlest version of Ron Swanson.
Pretty much.
I do like how he's the only one that he saved too at the very, very end. Like, could have saved all these other superheroes, but no, he saved the one random asshole.
Yeah.
I mean, he saved the only one who was innocent.
They got Shatterstar like visually perfect, and you know what? Yeah. He's tossed away.
Oh man, I love Shatterstar. I'm a fan of that character, and so I was super stoked to know that he was going to be in this movie. And I thought it was hilarious that they just completely and utterly wrecked every single one of those characters, even though I was excited to see them all. It was just perfect. It was such a good bait.
Shatterstar was cool because they name drop Mojo World, which was really neat. Yeah. And then the fact that they're like, oh, he's an alien, and then when he gets chopped up in the helicopter, he's just all green blood.
Green blood, yeah.
Anything else, Brylan?
No, I'll pass it on to our next victim. Podcaster.
I'm going to toss it to the beautiful Abbott. With your thoughts about the acting and the casting?
Yeah, no, I'm not. Like, I love this movie. I really enjoyed it, but I am going to dunk on it a little bit. I do agree with a lot of what Brylan said. A lot of the cast from the original movie coming back was great because they were perfect in the last movie. Most of the people that came into this movie brand new were fantastic. Josh Brolin, for one, that dude has so much range. And like, now that I think about it, and I actually looked into it a little bit, I'd be challenged to find someone who's been in more comic book movies than him. Because if you think about it, he's been in all the Avengers movies. He's been Guardians of the Galaxy, but this is all kind of one IP almost. Whereas he's also been in Jonah Hex. He was in Sin City 2. He was in Men in Black 3. Like, he's been in a lot of like comic tangent movies. And I think, he's also been in No Country for Old Men. So he can still pull off this rugged badass, but he's also still kind of funny, and he can play off like I thought he was like the perfect conservative foil for Deadpool, and I think he really pulled that off great. Zazie Beetz, again, was a great addition. I spoiled it for Warren. I think what I said is like, oh yeah, the girl from Atlanta's in this movie. Like, and I'm really pumped to see what she does. And it was as simple as that. I didn't even think about it, but she was amazing. I really loved how they portrayed Domino's luck powers. That was really cool. And I really look forward to see like what they do with that character and how that sort of evolves going forward. If it's another Deadpool movie or an X-Force movie, the one thing that really distracted me was the kid, Fire Fist. You guys have heard me say it before. I hate kids in movies. He wasn't too bad, but for me, it was almost like in RoboCop 3, where they make the bad guy a kid. They're just like, oh yeah, give him a gun and have him say fuck a bunch. That'll be really cool. And then on top of that, he kind of has like a weird, annoying accent, and he's just kind of annoying the whole time. And he's kind of like a buddy of Deadpool, and he's like kind of playing tag along. And I know that's sort of the part, but to me, that sort of seemed like a weak plot point because there were so many other X-Men stories with the same kind of like dynamic, especially featuring like Cable, for instance, that could have been a much more compelling movie. So I didn't like his character or that kid as much. And I'll add him on Twitter later. But,
yeah, that character felt a lot like they couldn't really get the rights to like Pyro as a character, so the studio decided to make up their own character. That's why he has a terrible.
This is a real character.
That's why he has a terrible code name, and that's why I wouldn't say he's bad, but he's acceptable.
Yeah, he's acceptable, but I just thought he came off at times as a little annoying. He definitely was funny. Like he was, like I'm saying, like I still love this movie, but I'll dunk all day on that kid. But yeah, you know, the little things in the movie, like bringing back Juggernaut and doing him so much more justice than X-Men 3, where it was they delayed that movie to basically include like the internet meme and had like a terrible portrayal of the Juggernaut, and then this in like
I'm the Juggernaut, bitch.
Can we just talk about how a movie that's a comic book movie, or excuse me, that is a comedy and that is also a super pop culture referential movie, did not include the "I'm the Juggernaut, bitch" line. Yeah, but the movie that was supposed to be like the finale to this like very serious like mutants like trilogy did. How stupid is that?
No, it shows restraint though. I think like if they retold the joke, it would have almost ruined it, because that was sort of what pissed me off about X-Men 3 was Brett Ratner, who sucks.
That pissed you off because that movie sucked.
Also, I'm the Juggernaut bitch line is like a decade old. That's an ancient meme in terms of internet culture. It would have been so disappointing.
I thought that was pre-YouTube.
That was in the meme Hall of Fame.
Yeah, probably. Let's give it like 12 to 15 years then. I was trying to be conservative. But yeah, I would have been super upset if that was the case and they included that in just to have it in there.
You could have almost flipped it and had Deadpool been like, oh, what are you, the Juggernaut, bitch? Like, you could have done that, but...
Oh, that would have been good.
But yeah, him saying it would have been completely stupid.
But even like in the short amount of time he did have on screen, he was much more convincing and a way better Juggernaut than like what's his face, Bullet Tooth Tony from Snatch was in the original one, or in X-Men 3 or whatever it was. I can't remember the actor's name.
Vinnie Jones.
I love him. Vinnie Jones. I love Vinnie Jones, but that portrayal of Juggernaut was just dumb. And yeah, then additionally, just like introducing X-Force and just having them all just get like so like fucked up within like 5 minutes of existing was amazing. Like that was incredible. The best like fake out ever.
Skarsgård kid with his like venom spit onto Peter was fantastic.
That's what I thought. I was like, oh, it'll like Peter will be the only one to last, and then he just gets vomited on, and then you're like, wait, what was his? Oh yeah, acid. Damn.
My favorite part of that whole scene was fucking when Shatterstar was flying in on his like coming in on the parachute, and his superhero ponytail was just flying in his ear. You couldn't see where he was landing. It was so fun to me.
Well, that was one of the things is like he looked almost too comics accurate, and then when I saw his hair, I was like, that's a terrible wig. He can't be wearing that through the whole movie, and then he didn't. So
but perfect. Yeah, I mean, going off of a couple of things you said, Abbott, I absolutely agree. The kid actor that you were talking about is not quite a kid. I mean, he's older than Ty Simpkins, but his name's Julian Dennis. His name's Julian Dennison. It's not a weird accent. He was just from New Zealand. So I'm not sure.
No, he had the same accent as Cord.
I know it's a New Zealand accent, but it was annoying to me. Like he's already a kid.
Well, I think it was a nice pairing because they kind of. I'm assuming then none of you guys have seen Hunt for the Wilderpeople.
No. I want to see it.
Okay, you guys are all terrible. I fucking hate it. Yeah. you definitely need to go check out this movie because literally his character in that movie, they kind of put in this character here, but gave him a little bit more to work with. But his character is super funny, is very engaging. But that character is paired up with the guy from Jurassic Park, Sam Neill, his name.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So he's paired up with that, and one's a serious character, one's a very, very comedic character. He's like a juvenile delinquent. So you get more of that character in this movie, but then they like put like a bunch of comic book things in, and I have to disagree because I thought it was very fun. It was nice to see him doing almost very similar what he was doing in that movie, but then just made it like a bit more like hilarious, especially with the rummaging, right? And the
I did enjoy the child hiding things in his butt. Yeah, his prison wallet. Yep.
I hadn't heard the phrase prison wallet before this movie, and now I will never not be able to forget that phrase.
But yeah, I definitely would say I definitely would suggest if you haven't seen that movie, definitely go check out Hunt for Wilder People. He's also been in Shopping, but I haven't seen that movie. But I think this kid, right? He was born in 2002, so he's 16, 17 now. I think he's gonna be like probably one of the next biggest stars too. And I like the fact that they changed how quote unquote superheroes, villains look. You know, and I think they even mentioned it in this actual movie, the fact that you never get like an overweight sort of superhero, and that's kind of true. I mean, we don't quite see like that literally everybody that's overweight has always had something negative and they're a villain.
Yeah, the Blob.
Exactly. And I like the fact that they at least kind of changed up a little bit because we know that he's kind of sort of goes good and he's like a good guy. He's a villain majority of the movie, but he definitely turns and like it goes a bit of a good guy here. And
what about Mr. Incredible?
What about Mr. Incredible? He's jacked.
No, he's pretty fat in that movie.
No,
remember he can't fit into a super suit.
Fat.
He's got dad bod.
Yeah, he's got
isn't necessarily
spoiler alert for Incredibles, guys.
Spoiler alert, he has a dad
for a
bod.
10-year-old
children listening to this fucking podcast right now.
Oh, come on.
Dad bod didn't even exist as a term when like that movie came out.
Yes, it did. Shut up. It didn't come out that
Dad
way.
bod was
absolutely
invented
did
in
not.
2015.
This is
I was
accurate.
born with a dad bod.
I'm gonna toss it over. Let's talk to me about some acting. Talk to me about some casting. Mocha.
Yeah, so for the casting in this film, everyone kind of touched on how good the actors were in their roles, and I completely agree. Zazie Beetz was fantastic. She had this kind of like playful, carefree attitude that I had never really pictured Domino from the comics with, but it makes sense. If you're someone who has the ability to just have luck be on their side like all the time, you probably develop a bit of a carefree attitude too. So I really enjoyed how upbeat she was while not taking anybody's shit. Josh Brolin was fantastic in this movie, especially the character of Cable. In my opinion, he was perfect. Cable is a gruff badass from the future, and I didn't need anything more than that, and that is exactly what Josh Brolin gave us. One of my friends that I went to go see it with was kind of upset that the movie didn't go more into Cable's history and who Cable was and this and that. And I can sort of get that, but this wasn't a Cable movie. And I don't think it was meant to be. This was meant to be a character study of Wade Wilson and who he is as a person as he sort of transcends or spirals from his relationship with Vanessa into the real zany, completely out of control personality that is Deadpool. So I'm glad that they just kind of held him back to be, like Abbott said, that foil for Deadpool's zaniness. And he was also just generally badass throughout the whole thing. I actually didn't mind, what's his name? Russell, the kid who played Russell, Rusty, aka Fire Fist.
Ryan Dennis, I guess.
Yeah, I thought it was a good character. I mean, the whole, like we were talking about earlier, the whole point of that character is he's supposed to be some like dumpy, annoying, like loser that everyone brushes off, because then it's like, it's a surprise that in the future he becomes this murderous like psychopath that no one took seriously when he was a kid. And the only one who takes him seriously as a kid is Cable, and he looks like a maniac for it because he just wants to murder some kid. But it was, I liked it. I liked him, and I liked the fact that they brought in so many obscure random ass characters from across like the Marvel X-Men history. There are a shit ton of mutants in Marvel's history, like a crazy amount. And I am completely fine with the Deadpool series bringing in as many random obscure ones as they can. just to kill them off in ridiculous ways. I have no problem with what happened to X-Force, and I thought it was really, really funny that they just knocked them all off.
Yeah, it reminded me. I took that as like a nod to Ecstatics, that they actually are kind of claiming it as part of the X-Force chronology. And for anybody that doesn't know that's listening, Ecstatics was kind of in the early 2000s when Marvel was having tough times and they were bankrupt and everything. X-Force wasn't selling, and so they wanted to cater to a more adult audience, so they started their Max line. And so they made this group of mutants called the Ecstatics, which were just the most bizarre looking mutants you've ever seen, that they worked for money, and if you didn't have the money, they told you to fuck off. But it was all about just like dick and fart jokes, nudity, and rampant nudity, and like there would be like at least half the team would die every issue too. So I thought it was like just really cool that they did that, because it seemed like a cool nod to claim part of that as the X-Force chronology as well.
I will take a little bit of offense. So Deadpool 2, New Mutants, and Dark Phoenix are probably going to be the last 3 Fox mutant films. And part of me thought that with all the self-referential humor, which I'm sure we're going to get into shortly, that they could have slid Deadpool into the MCU easily. Like, just whatever. And then 5 years down the line, had Deadpool and Tom Holland Spider-Man hanging out, which I was the kind of fangirling over the possibility of them to, in the future. But the one scene where they opened it up and had the original X-Men team the second X-Men team. First of all, I lost my mind laughing.
So good.
But also a little bit of me cried because, like, if Marvel takes over, that's kind of a nail in the coffin of like, hey, we might not get Deadpool back, because it references a little bit too much.
Well, honestly, the one thing one quick thing before Mocha, one thing my roommate mentioned that he's going to look into this stuff, but it's cool that he said that, I really enjoyed that part when they did a brief mention of the current X-Men, but it was the wrong time period.
Yeah.
And I was like, shut up, Tyler. It's fine. It's hilarious. Let's just laugh with it and just go along with it. But it was definitely the wrong time period, because they should have been like Patrick Stewart and the older characters. So,
but that also is in line with the joke from Deadpool 1, where they're talking about Charles Xavier, and he's going through the different actors and saying these timelines are so confusing.
Stewart.
Yeah, what did he say? Smelled like Patrick Stewart. There was something that he found that he was like smelling. Was it the wheelchair or like
the Cerebro? The Cerebro.
Yeah, the Cerebro. Yeah.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that about Disney Blew It, because something that I thought about after seeing this film is how, like, as a Marvel fan, as an MCU fan, I am really excited for the notion that Disney is going to create this horrifying conglomerate and take over Fox, that they can get access to the mutants. However, in my ideal world, they would get access to all their mutants, but they would leave Deadpool with Fox and create a sort of like partnership like they did with Sony, where they allow him to reference certain like mutant characters. Because honestly, I do not believe that Disney has the gumption to make an R-rated Deadpool, make R-rated Deadpool movies in line with Ryan Reynolds' vision for the character. And I'm totally fine with Fox keeping Deadpool and continuing to make this stuff at R-rated.
The only problem is that I think the sale is the entire IP. And so I think that Disney, they would have to subcontract, I forget is it like New Line Cinema or something, or Miramax? There's one of those companies that is a subsidiary of Disney, that Disney pushes out their R-rated movies. And so I've seen it postulated that instead of Disney Marvel, it would be Disney, like that company, and that would do the R-rated Deadpool movies.
There are definitely ways for them to go about it, and you're right, the deal would be an acquiring of all the IPs, but I want Fox and the team that's working on Deadpool now to continue with it. They've knocked it out of the park both times, and I don't want to see that watered down in a different studio, unless they brought the entire creative team over, right, which that's possible.
And Ryan Reynolds has such a huge, like, he got a writing credit and an executive producer credit, and then also, starred in the stupid thing. But so I would bet that it wouldn't be too hard to get at least the primary creative people I mean, what do you need to? Who is the director on this? I don't even know. Should probably have looked that up before that. Doing like a movie.
He used to be. I was reading
Rooney.
something about him. I can't remember his name, but apparently he started as a stuntman.
So as long as it's not
director.
like it's not like a someone who's like a mainstay in Fox Studios that like Fox gives a ton of stuff to, you could probably poach. It wouldn't be too hard to do.
But isn't
Yeah, I mean,
Comcast still potentially trying to
Yeah.
outbid Disney?
As long as Comcast doesn't get it, I'll be happy.
Then
Yeah.
I feel like the next Deadpool will just be Ryan Reynolds going fuck Comcast for 2.5 hours. Because there's no way they make like they actually like that would be worse than Disney. Truthfully, like
It'll be the guy from Nerdist trying to sell you like a phone plan.
So a quick little bit of information. The director of this film was David Leitch, who was the director for Atomic Blonde.
And John
Oh.
Wick.
That's right.
Well, he directed some scenes. In John Wick. He didn't direct-
not everything. Yeah,
Oh.
but Atomic Blonde,
yeah.
that was. I mean, we talked about that movie also previously. I think the majority of us kind of really enjoyed that movie a lot. So that was pretty awesome.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that I'm totally into the idea of pulling out these random characters. I had hoped, or I had kind of wished that they had picked a character from Cable's future that like was a meaningful threat. Like in the comics, Fire Fist is a super obscure hero who dies at some point.
Yeah.
He's
Why not
important
Strife?
in any way. Yeah, it could have been Strife. Could have been any number of these characters from the future. I'll give that a pass though, because since at the end of the film, Deadpool's selfless actions changes his Fire Fist's future path and makes him into a good guy. It kind of makes sense because then the rest of the future moving forward, he's a good guy. So it kind of lines up. So I'll give it a pass, but I just wish there was a bit more oomph in the character that Cable was coming back and trying to kill. I am also really excited about the fact that they were so ambiguous about Domino and who she is, or where she came from, because clearly she's going to be around for future movies. At least I hope so. I hope she's a part of Deadpool's team moving forward. But for anyone who doesn't know at home, Domino was part of a human experimentation program called Weapon Armageddon, I believe, or not Weapon Armageddon, Project Armageddon, where they were trying to create super soldiers. And she was one of the few survivors of it, but the government agency deemed that her powers of manipulating luck weren't useful for war and tried to get rid of her as a result. That could easily be transitioned in the film into her being part of the same project that Deadpool was a part of. So I think they left themselves open to kind of play with the character more moving forward. And I've got no problem with them like altering little bits about the character's history to make them fit into this little universe. I mean, for crying out loud, Vanisher, Brad Pitt's character, isn't invisible in the comics. He's a teleporter. He vanishes, poof, and goes away. But it was still funny as hell to see the little backpack jumping out.
I love that part.
So, I really don't mind that they're changing some of these characters to just make it fit for bits and jokes. Because at the end of the day, these are really obscure characters that they're using anyway, for the most part.
I think one of the major missed opportunities is that Domino's Pizza didn't have a marketing campaign with Zazie Beetz.
They still can. They still do
can.
it.
I'm saying Domino's Pizza, get on that.
Yeah.
Mike, I got to agree with you. I kind of wish that it was a little bit more like built in on Cable. Not that I was definitely one of those people that wanted to see more of Cable in the future to ground him in that reality and then have him come back. That being said, I also think that it would add too much to the runtime to the movie to do that. And I think that you raise a good point where if you have a villain that's more of a personal threat to him in the future, besides like the very obvious, like, oh, he killed, wife and kid, although that ties in with like the bear anyways, but whatever, that it could have given him a little bit more exposition. Because I felt like he was just this unknown badass that seemed like a super soldier sent back from the future rather than like someone who is like very emotionally, attached to the situation. The other thing I'd also say is I think a little bit of the casting suffered just purely due to time. There was one time when he was monologuing in the middle of the movie and he just sounded like Thanos. he had that like, and I will get all of these people from the past with the snap of my fingers. And like,
I know what it's like to lose in the future.
Yeah, it was like, it's like, dude, like,
I too am cursed with knowledge.
Cable could really use the time stone, is what he needs.
Exactly. But so, like, if this movie came out in November of this year, I feel like I would not have drawn the comparison. But it literally came out 2 weeks later, and it's just like, oh, dude, that's Thanos. It's the same guy.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely would have loved to see more of Cable. I'm not against I'm not against the idea of Cable having more plot. He's a rich character, and there's a lot of info to unpack there, with him being the son of Scott Summers and Madeline Pryor, and like the interactions with Mr. Sinister. Like, there's a lot going on there, especially with his children, with Hope and everything. But this movie was like I mentioned earlier, a character study in Wade Wilson. He loses. It was something that's easy to forget about this movie, or at least for me, is that the character Wade Wilson is a human. He's a person who had some like gnarly shit happen to him. And I thought that this movie did a really good job of showing the transition from being Wade Wilson, who worked as Deadpool, to living in the Deadpool persona. Vanessa was his last remaining tether to the things that he actually cared about in the real world, in the world where he was just a person. And as soon as she's taken away in the beginning of the film, the rest of the movie is just this downward spiral where he, as a self-defense mechanism, digs deeper and deeper into his psychotic persona, to the point where by the end of the movie, you've lost track of where Wade Wilson ever was in the first place. And so I think that was what the story was about. And I appreciate that they gave us that. And hopefully Deadpool 3 will take the time to really dig into Cable, talking about what that future was like, because he's going to stick around to stop the things from happening.
What do you think is going to come first, Deadpool 3 or X-Force? Because so this is completely going against what I just said about Fox not having any control over the future of their franchises, but they were set on making X-Force happen, at some point.
I think it's a matter of how well this movie does is what they do next.
It depends a lot on when the Disney Fox acquisition goes through. I think that Disney, especially Kevin Feige, would be of the mindset to push X-Force before anything else. He understands the power of ensembles, and we've seen what he could do with the Avengers and with Guardians of the Galaxy. And X-Force is like comprised of a bunch of characters throughout like the history of the group, a bunch of characters that Disney would love to have on film together. My favorite iteration of X-Force is like
half of those
Wolverine,
characters are
Psylocke, Deadpool, Phantom X, and even Archangel, which I thought was funny because he kept talking about how his last resort was to have the guy with pigeon wings on his team.
Oh, I was hoping Archangel was going to
hoping.
Yeah, Angel is an actual member of X-Force in the comics. In fact, one of my favorite moments, actually probably my favorite moment in that entire comic run, is Archangel getting knocked out during a battle, and him waking up to Deadpool standing over him, feeding him meat, and saying, "It'll be okay, just eat the meat, it'll make you feel better." And then the camera zooms out, and you see that he's just carving strips of his own forearm off and feeding it to him, like while he's unconscious. And it's just really weird and creepy and gross. But it's one of my favorite Deadpool moments.
It'll be interesting how they like crafted X-Force movie. Do you want to go with like X-Force characters with like an ecstatics attitude and have it be very slapsticky, or do you want to kind of go towards that more Black Ops route of a Black Ops team that just does the dirty jobs for anybody?
I think it's going to be really sticky in general.
Black Ops. I think an X-Force movie would be better as a Black Ops type of film, because there's other characters involved other than Deadpool. That are
at that point
names.
you almost have to make Cable your main character then. Instead of doing a dedicated Cable movie, you just make X-Force.
Yep. Yeah.
They'll probably wind up calling it like Deadpool and X-Force and the X-Force, or Cable and the X-Force. Like they had a series
Cable's
last year that was
team name, Cable and the Six Pack.
That'll be hilarious. I'll watch that.
Yeah. Caroline, friend of the show, tapped me in the shoulder midway through the movie and goes, "How old is he? Why does he still look like that?"
He's like in his mid-50s, I think.
Yeah, he's ripped though.
He got
jacked for the movie
before this movie though. Like that's when he started getting so fucking jacked.
He's in that Thanos shape. No, wait, no, Mocha. Cable in the comics is, correct me if I'm wrong, is he a carrier of the legacy virus? Or like what? Because there's that scene where he's sort of going over his body and like sort of like examining where the tech is sort of invading his body.
He has the techno-organic virus.
That's what it is.
The phalanx.
Yeah. And I was surprised they didn't really bring that, or like didn't even like say anything about that. It was just sort of like slyly hinted at it, but it wasn't really like brought up as like, I'm from the future and I have this robot disease that is slowly eating away at me.
I have future AIDS.
Damn it.
I wish that's what he said when he stepped out of the portal. I have future AIDS. Give me your truck.
Yeah, so it looks like we brought up a lot of stuff. So I'm really interested to see, like, what are some other favorite moments? What are some other favorite things that we talked about that you want to talk about regarding Deadpool 2? So I'm going to toss it to Abbott.
Yeah, one of the things that stands out to me was early in the movie when you see that kind of montage of when Wade is explaining he's branched out and how international he is, and you see him like fighting, you know, the guys in the bathhouse and like the dudes like in Japan and the dudes over here and like the dudes over there, and like they're these crazy fight scenes. And you almost want that to be expanded, but at the same time, it just kind of makes sense that he's kicking all this ass all over the world and like making this money and working his job. But then he comes home to Vanessa, and that's where you sort of reel it into like what you guys were saying, the realism as to like there's more Wade Wilson at this point than Deadpool. He's moving away from Deadpool and kind of becoming like his own person, which was sort of fun to watch. But then also just the little callbacks and the nods to certain things. Like I know we've mentioned a lot of X-Force references, but one of the things I love at the end of the movie when he gets blasted by Fire Fist and his entire outfit is just grayed out. That's his X-Force uniform. His gray Deadpool uniform is his X-Force uniform. That was really great. And little things like that throughout the movie I really enjoyed. Little nods and kind of pokes for the nerds watching.
There was a good amount of like just visual gags that they didn't even kind of talk about. Even before that scene that you're talking about, we see the charcoal Deadpool that he gets ripped in half by Juggernaut. And so when he comes back on screen, his entire suit is basically taped together with duct tape. And nobody said anything about it. Nobody like mentioned it, but that's like a visual gag that kind of keeps kind of popping up. And the fact that you have Depender, who just really wants to be like a super, he's trying to be a superhero. He's trying to be a part of the team, and so
he's trying to be a contract killer.
Yeah, but the way that he like describes it was, it's kind of like the moment from like, you know, what's that? A Vampire Diary, right? I think that's
Interview with a Vampire.
Oh yeah,
interview for a Vampire.
I'm your Kristen Stewart, or I'm your Kirsten Dunst.
Kristen.
Yeah, same thing. I mean, I do like the fact that, you know, one of my favorite moments was talking about the drama that they kind of introduced pretty quickly. They kind of raised the stakes, and I felt like they kind of took it so that we could take Deadpool character, Wade Wilson's character, a little bit more seriously, very, very quickly. Because one of the questions that I had going into this movie was, well, what's going to be the overall sort of motivation for him? And the fact that they introduced that Vanessa dies very early on, and the fact that there's a character with a time traveling device, I think that was going to be like a thing that's going to happen at some point, which was an amazing sequence of after credits movies or during the credits or however you want to kind of call that. But that was awesome to see him just go back and kind of correct everything, all the shitty movies that had happened before, or shitty parts of movies, which I thought was kind of funny. But I felt like this movie was very, very kind of open. It knew exactly what movies came before it. There was a part in which this movie, they did the same exact sequence from the Wolverine origin of when Deadpool's being shot at and he's like blocking all the bullets with his his knife. He chops the bullet in half, and they do the same exact sequence. But then in this movie, it's like, ow, he has all these bullet holes in him.
Your bullets are so fast.
It's just so funny because it's like at one point when I saw that, I was like, oh, that's a pretty cool sequence. I clearly this dude's like I guess he's like some sort of like Deadpool, and he ends up being a really, really shitty Deadpool apparently. And so now they have a lot of different kind of callbacks. And even for the sequence of when we were introduced to Juggernaut in, you know, X-Men 3, I believe, they do a similar sequence here of it's like a truck that's driving and he kind of busts out and doing that thing. So that was really cool. And I'm just glad that they made it so that you can kind of care a bit more about the characters. I really enjoy seeing him like really talk about like family kind of building off of something, and it's not just him fighting for himself. So that's pretty cool.
Did anyone know it was Juggernaut?
Nope.
Because
not at all.
That completely caught me by surprise. I watched the trailers for this, and and I had no idea. Even with the pounds on the wall, I was like, moo. I have no idea.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I had an idea that it was going to be Juggernaut because who else is going to make those booming noises and is that big? But I didn't like how they did his uniform or his costume or anything.
It was odd to me that they allowed him to keep his helmet in jail.
Yeah,
but like I let it go. I let it slide.
He didn't have a collar like anybody else, and he was just let's put him in a big box.
Nerd moment here. A collar to dampen mutant powers wouldn't have taken anything away from Juggernaut because Kane is not a mutant. He's possessed by the Crimson Band, gem of Cyttorak. So
Cyttorak, yes.
Fucking nerds. Do you
guys think that the part where he rips Deadpool in half, do you think that was honestly just Ryan Reynolds and one microphone, and he does his Juggernaut line and then he backs up, and he does his Deadpool line and he backs up, he does his Juggernaut line.
That would be hilarious. I really hope that happens too. I was really hoping that the big baddie in this movie was going to be Wolverine. Yeah, I just thought that was kind of finally that we get Wolverine in this movie, like a younger CG's like overlay of him, and I thought it'd be kind of funny, but it's okay. Bradley, what else you got? Some favorite moments?
Yeah. So one thing I think they did really well to enhance like the dramatic moments and like learn more about Wade Wilson as a character is just this whole idea of after Vanessa dies, that his vision of heaven is his apartment with Vanessa waiting for him, but he can't get to her unless he accomplishes a certain task. And even when he gets to her, he's told that, you're ready, but it's not your time yet. And I think that actually says a lot about the character that he has fun and he's slapsticky, but he also has this other side where you can kind of empathize with him of his grief and like the whole idea of like pain makes us better people and pain is going to help us learn about life. I think it's really cool to kind of explore with a character like this that's kind of unhinged and kind of insane that regardless of what he ends up doing, because like how when he's the X-Men trainee and Colossus tell him we don't kill, and that part of Deadpool that takes over and is just like, this guy was an asshole that touched children, sorry, boom, and kills him right there. And that's a really cool just type of like a difference that you would actually see, like how can I even feel anything for this character? They're able to make that happen with those Vanessa scenes, which I found were very touching. But along with those, I mean, this is packed with just hilarity and fun. There is a scene where Cable is taking a chapstick out of his tactical pouch and he's putting it on his lips, and Deadpool mentioned something about like it's hard to take you seriously with such soft lips or something, and then they get into an argument about his tactical pouch being a fanny pack, and I lost it. It's just hilarious that they take that moment in the middle of just like him onslaughting an entire prison and just bitching him about his fanny pack was fantastic. Also, when let's see here. They're also like they also have different types of humor that are really good. Like they even have like cutesy humor that they do. Like the high Wade, high Yukio thing that was funny.
Dude, that was gonna be my thing. Like that was the greatest. For no reason, just going full kawaii. Just
it's like the best. And that's, I mean, you expect that from Deadpool. And it's really neat because there's like they purposely put in jokes that are very dated. Like who's gonna do a dubstep joke this day and age?
Oh my god! The fact that they played Bangarang twice killed me.
The dubstep joke.
Dubstep's for pussies.
It is old, and it's like it doesn't really have a place right here and now in 2018, but it's something you do expect from the character of Deadpool to be kind of like cheesy and outdated with his jokes. Even I think that the only knock I can give it is like some of those jokes are like with his taglines like "What in the ass" and stuff like that, I think just kind of felt overplayed in this film a little bit compared to the first film. But they do a really good job. I mean, it's kind of that's kind of the personality of Deadpool too. At the same time, and I love that they actually play off the joke of when from the first movie about there's 16 kilos of cocaine buried in the house along with the cure for cancer.
blindness.
The cure for blindness. And pulls up that board and you see the cocaine and the cure for blindness. I just lost my
buddy who's huge into comic books, went and saw it with him, and he missed that one. I felt really happy that I snuck one by him, because usually it's just like, oh, remember this arbitrary thing that happened in 1993? I'm like, did you see the cure for blindness? He's like, no.
So good.
And the character of Black Tom Cassidy, I kind of like that they included him here. He's actually one of my favorite villains from the comics. And he actually partners with Kane Marco, aka Juggernaut, because I think they're brother-in-laws, I want to say.
There's some relation.
Yeah, there's some relation that they have to each other. And I thought it was a funny way of making fun of race jokes is by using Black Tom. But also they missed out on the really important having a joke about his magic shillelagh. They should have included something about that. But
it's a throwback to the comics.
Yeah, but if there was like a unnerving scene from the first film, it was the baby hand. It's just like the grotesque mixed with just ridiculousness to the nth degree, but they actually won up it with the baby legs joke in this one. This was just
the fact that they did baby dick. Was it Fatal Attraction or no, not Fatal Attraction?
Basic Instinct.
Basic Instinct. Yeah, that was just a lot. It was a lot. Oh man.
Yeah, my friend that saw it with me, he has asthma, and he actually had to get his inhaler out during that.
I've heard that baby dick will do that to a person.
And that's why Abbott can no longer go near schools.
Mocha, what you got for favorite moments?
Yeah, so I kind of feel you, Brian, a little bit when you mentioned that the kind of blatant jokes from Deadpool were getting a little overplayed for you, like the what the ass or whatever. I didn't mind so much Deadpool's jokes themselves, but what did get a little overplayed for me was the fourth wall breaking. Breaking the fourth wall is something that Deadpool is famous for in the comics. He's one of the few characters that is aware that he's being read by a human and makes reference to it. And in this film, there were a lot of moments where it was really funny, but in my mind, or at least the way I feel about it, is that when you break the fourth wall, it's surprising and it's shocking for the viewer, for the audience, because they're not expecting it, because they're getting fully engrossed in the film. So it's initially funny. But if you're breaking the fourth wall every other scene, it has diminishing returns in terms of its effectiveness. So for me, the fourth wall breaking became less and less funny as the film went on. And there was a lot of it in this movie compared to Deadpool 1. But other than that, the humor was got me through and through. It's been a funny day. I saw this movie last night, and it was so dense with just funny one-liners and visual gags that they didn't directly reference, but just were there, that my brain couldn't contain it all. And I just had this general feeling of, oh, that was funny, but I couldn't remember any quotes, which is usually my thing when I leave movies. And this morning, or this day, all day long, I've had these little things floating back into my brain, like how he randomly says at one point, it's like Beyonce says, please stop cheating on me. All this random shit when he takes the coke out of his safety vault underneath the floorboards in Blind Al's house and then puts it under his mask. I was like, all right, I guess that's just how he's gonna carry it. And then he punches himself in the face and the coke goes everywhere. It completely took me by surprise. And then he does the sumo wrestler chalk hand clap with the coke too.
So good.
And it was just so much of this movie, despite knowing that you're going into a film that's going to make a lot of funny jokes, so many of the jokes completely blindsided me. Like I mentioned earlier, I had never heard the phrase prison wallet before. And the fact that Deadpool was disturbed by the fact that this kid was willing to put a shank up his ass was even funnier, because of all people, Wade Wilson should have seen everything. It was just, man, this was just a funny movie. I don't even know if I have a specific favorite moment. I can't wait to see this film again, just so I can really take everything in.
Yeah.
Um,
You definitely need to see this multiple times to catch every joke and reference that's going on.
oh yeah, absolutely. Him zipping around X-Men Mansion in Charles Xavier's wheelchair, like doing spins and stuff like that, while complaining about the fact that the production company won't throw them any bones in terms of money to spend on bringing in other characters.
Well, even
And
even
the
on
whole
that
cast of
same
X-Men in the back.
even on that same part, he goes, "Oh man, there's a lot of old white people's pictures hanging up. Good thing I'm bummed I didn't bring my rape whistle. Was so fucking good."
Oh yeah.
I mean, like that's definitely gonna be going off of like my same points here, Mocha. Is I'm very excited to watch this again because there was just layer upon layer of the amount of different types of comedy that was just kind of bashing you over the head with it. But I'm so glad because you tend to appreciate it even more so. You're like, oh shit, that happened, and there's probably like 10 jokes within a span of like maybe 10 seconds, especially with the baby leg sequence because that which is just so much happening all at one point.
That was like an epic operatic performance of one stupid joke. So we just got to that point of encouraging a new baby to walk type of thing was amazing.
Oh man. Even when and the fact that they found ways to fit in jokes even during dramatic moments, like when they're having the final standoff with Fire Fist and they're defending the headmaster of Essex House and he runs away to safety and Deadpool looks back and he goes, "Oh God, he even runs like a pedophile."
I'm just killing. What? I guess. Can I have a gun? He's like, no. I was just going to use his brick. I guess. He's just beating people in the head with it. Like, come on, man.
It was just so rich and dense, and amidst all of that, like humor, we got these really intense and super well choreographed fight scenes. The scene, like the opening montage in the beginning, Deadpool like fighting people across the world. Zazie Beetz scene where she was storming Essex House and like essentially killing all of the guards who work there through luck, having things like in like a Final Destination-esque scene where her probability of causing shit to happen to them was just incredible.
Falling on the dude's head was ridiculous.
Oh yeah, just completely wiping it off. It was such a dense movie. There was so much in it from start to finish. It's really hard to pinpoint a spot. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed myself.
And last up, we got Blue. What do you got? So, any other favorite moments?
Yeah, you alluded to earlier. I think the most important line in cinema history is not Rosebud. It is Ryan Reynolds as himself saying, "Oh, Ryan, you finally made it." Staring at the green lantern.
Welcome to the big leagues, kid.
Yeah. I honestly don't think I've laughed harder ever in a movie from that. Like that was so. Mocha was saying how the fourth wall. I took it less of like breaking the fourth wall than this movie was made with the audience involved in it. Like in Deadpool 1, to me, you had the shock factor of breaking the fourth wall. And then he even references, he's like, "Oh, I'm breaking the fourth wall while breaking the fourth wall." In this movie, it felt like the audience was literally just along for the ride, and Deadpool was guiding you. I mean, he had a million, what was it? My greatest superpower is now unbridled cancer. Give me a bow and arrow. I'm Hawkeye. Like, or Cable asking me, he's like, "Who are you?" And he just goes, "I'm Batman." Like,
God, you're so dark. You must be from the DC universe.
Honestly, this movie wasn't. You can't fault the fourth wall breaking because this movie is just. You have to have seen all of the comic book movies and then go see Deadpool 2. Because you're along for the ride with them. You're in the writer's seat with them.
That's a great point. Because the whole fourth wall breaking. This is like one of the few movies where, you know what, it's really okay to dive into seeing every trailer and every commercial that comes out and all this side stuff. Whether it's Ryan Reynolds talking to Hugh Jackman on social media and Twitter and they're just saying some funny shit to each other, or they're doing just some popping up in strange commercials and stuff. It is kind of that fourth wall breaking makes him like an interactive character for the audience where you're doing a little bit more than just watching the movie.
Yeah. To me, also, I did really like the whole barrier metaphor that they had going on. And didn't they do the whole water thing too, where like he got sucked up through the? Or am I just thinking of Tully again?
Yeah, whenever he quote unquote died, it's almost like he was being submerged in water, and then
right. I really like that metaphor. Also, to expand on earlier, Wade Wilson. So I feel like it's retroactively a big miss for them in the first one, where they could have made a much bigger deal on him not being able to die, because I feel like they really drove home the important part that what Wade wanted was what the one thing he could not physically do. You know, like his greatest want in life was to die and be with like the person he loved. But
go ahead. Sorry.
But I was gonna say, but because of his mutant ability, it's something that he couldn't do it if you wanted it to. And so I feel like you could have had a little bit more. I was gonna say you could have had a little bit more emotional impact if they brought it up in the first one, so that you could have somewhere of a jumping off point to go in the second one.
Yeah, I thought it was amazing that they showed that he's pissed off at Wolverine at the beginning, because it's funny, but it's also very poignant at the same time.
Right.
Yeah. To that effect, Blewett, I completely see where you're coming from, but I think that this is where the strength of this particular film comes from. In Deadpool 1, his inability to die is still new. And so he's still reaping all the benefits of it. And in fact, his inability to die is the only thing that allows him to accomplish his one goal, which is to save the woman he loves and get back together with her. And then you have Deadpool 2, which is a further character study where he loses that one thing he wanted. And now what seemed like a blessing, during his first moments with it, the inability to die, is his ultimate curse. And now he's struggling to deal with what that looks like without that anchor point, which is why I think this movie, despite all of its jokes and its humor, is actually a really good like character study in terms of like the dramatic life of what it's like to be the human Wade Wilson underneath the Deadpool mask.
Well, that's why I was a little conflicted, because like the end of the movie when he takes that bullet and he's dying, and then the one long joke where he's just dying and he says goodbye and then he comes back and he says goodbye and he comes back, like that was getting, even for me, like a little bit like long winded to pull the joke. But then just for Cable to decide to go back in time and hide the token to block the bullet just so that he wouldn't die, it's like, well, didn't Deadpool want to die? But then he just goes back in time and saves What's-Her-Face anyway. Like, that whole, like, conundrum towards the end of the movie just seemed very, like a lot of wires got crossed and people had different ideas that they all wanted to convey, and, like, nobody could agree on anything. Like, to me, that's what the creative process felt like, because it felt like a little bit of a jumble there towards the end.
I think it was more along the lines of I think we should have seen some more like inner monologue happening. There was a bit of a moment or a beat on Cable's face that he may have seen a future. And I think he also mentions the fact that in the future you're dead, like you don't make it out. And so I'm also wondering if like at that moment, if he saw that, if in the future that we do have Deadpool, like if it's going to make a difference, that's why I'm going to then choose to save him. Right. Like this is me potentially kind of pulling or grasping from like kind of a couple things, but I think he definitely mentions, and by he, I mean Cable, he definitely does mention something like that. And that's a choice that he made to keep his family safe, which they were already safe, but still try to save the world and do something so that it doesn't go to shit, like he also said in this movie. So I think that was a particular choice that he made to then save Deadpool.
But then so for me at least, the one thing that I kept getting hung up on is like they could have just as easily taken the collar gets hit with a bullet when they're in the prison, and that's when he gets his powers back. They could have shot the collar off of him and he could have healed himself, rather than having Cable jump back in time and like do that weird.
They didn't have any bullets left. He said he was out of.
Well, I think the point there was that he wanted to die at that point. Like Colossus goes to rip it off his neck, and he tells him like, no, don't do it. And so I think at that point they were just honoring his wishes. Yeah. And then Cable went and said, "Fuck your wishes." Like,
but he could have said, "Fuck your wishes" and ripped the collar off his neck. That's just where I'm like there's like two different ways this could have happened, and you went about it the most complicated way.
To be fair, Deadpool references that earlier when Cable's like, "I've only got 2 charges. One to get here and one to get back." He's like, well, that's lazy writing. So when I mean, like, there's,
and that's where I come from. Is like I feel like some of the writing was lazy, but like it's almost purposeful. Maybe yeah. That's actually a good point, Blewett. Like it probably was on purpose.
yeah, it's all like they got the cool moment where he like takes out the coin that they referenced earlier. It's lazy writing, but you can't. They literally brought themselves into a situation where you can't make fun of them for it because they're like,
because they already made fun of themselves,
right?
And because once you introduce time travel, you're kind of like fucking yourself there. Like you can do anything at that point. It doesn't matter.
I wasn't even get into that, but like how because they got into it in the movie. One thing I would like to say before any sort of conclusions on this, speaking of like wicked dated references, the Skyfall opening credits to this movie was unbelievable. Like, dude, like they went, what is that, 4 years ago at this point? Like,
I knew once they announced this Celine Dion song, I was like, it's got to be some sort of James Bond-ish reference.
Yeah, that Celine Dion song was fire.
When I heard that Celine Dion song and saw the music video, I'm like, how are they going to incorporate this in the movie? And that was like the perfect way to do it.
My favorite thing about the music video was at the end of the song where we've had Deadpool doing ballerina dances behind Celine Dion while she's singing. He's in the audience clapping. He's like, you know what, Celine, that was great. It was an 11 out of 10, and we really needed to bring it down to like a 4 or 5 because this is not an 11 movie.
So we have talked a lot. So let's get into our conclusions before we wrap off the show. So, Brylan, some conclusions and lasting thoughts for Deadpool 2.
Yeah, so this movie is like definitely that sequel that you love where it takes what the first one did and just makes it better. And it builds upon the characters. You learn more about Wade Wilson and you get to know him a little bit more. And it gets you excited for what they're going to do next. And expanding into X-Force, or if they do another Deadpool 3, be happy to see either one. One other little criticism I'd have to it, I think Negasonic Teenage Warhead was a little bit underutilized. It'd been cool to explore her character a little bit more, but I think adding Yukio and having her relationship out there, and that's something that her and Wade can joke about, was a lot of fun. So,
yeah, that was a good point. Mocha?
Yeah, I thought this was a great sequel. I think it deserves the success that it's experiencing. And I think it earned that by focusing on story instead of just trying to outgore itself. I'm looking forward to where they go with the future for this franchise, especially since we've done a pretty solid character arc for Wade Wilson himself. And now we've got a lot of really big name characters in the mix alongside him. Domino, Cable, Negasonic, Colossus. I would love to see future movies kind of expand on the world around Deadpool. But I'm really satisfied with how this movie came out, and I think that if you even enjoyed the first movie in the slightest, you should definitely make it a priority to see this film.
Oh, for sure. Abbott?
Yeah, I think for a sequel, this was really solid. I dunked on it a little bit, but I did really love this movie. I think they have the combination down pat, but there's some things I'd love to see them do. I was really hoping they were going to kill off TJ Miller's character in this movie, but maybe we can look forward to that in the next film. And I know they have sort of this time travel doodad from Cable now, but I really want to see Deadpool kind of utilizing the Bamfs from the comics, they're little baby Nightcrawler demons from like the Age of Apocalypse timeline that he can just kind of squeeze and like hop around whenever he wants. I think that would be kind of cool. There's lots they can do with the character, and I think it would be really neat to kind of see that down the line. But yeah, if you get a chance, go to see the movie. It's pretty dope. If you like the first one, you'll definitely like this one.
I mean, the one thing I actually thought about, like, I really hope that I'm glad that they kind of didn't, because if, the next Deadpool movie, they do mention that, oh, hey, this bartender was recast. Oh, you wonder why? Or if they make a joke about TJ Miller in the next movie, I think that's going to be even a better way just to say kind of fuck you.
They just cast like a very attractive actor and they're like, oh, like, so what happened? Oh, I got some work done.
Yeah, like something something ridiculous. Like get Brad Pitt, right? Like I think the ultimate like fuck you would be
Vanisher's dead. Sorry.
Get Brad Pitt. But no, get Chris Helmsworth. Put him like in like same hair, right? Put him in glasses and just act as if like nobody says anything, and then Deadpool makes a joke. It kind of reminded me of Thor. He's like, no, I'm like your best friend. We've been hanging out for like all these times. They do a flashback and it's just Chris Hemsworth in all the scenes of number 1 and number 2.
Yes.
I think that will be probably some of the funniest shit ever. So I really hope they do that. Sorry, for hijacking, but that'd be pretty cool. Blewett, what do you got?
Yeah, for me, I think this movie dipped pretty low at sometimes. Like the whole death scene kind of brought me out of the movie. There's a couple of times where like it got a little bit too heady for a Deadpool movie. That being said, the highs were unbelievably funny. The action was pretty solid. Like, you know, for a comedy was like pretty spot on. I feel like it's the same thing I was saying about Last Jedi, where like there was crazy highs and crazy lows. In this case, I also agree with my review of Last Jedi, where go see it because it's awesome. The highs were so much higher than any of the lows in the movie.
Can I add one more thing?
Yeah.
One thing that I think was interesting around the release of this movie is like a week or two before Deadpool came out, they had also announced that the animated Deadpool series was canceled and no longer happening, which is a real shame. But I hope beyond hope that depending on how successful this film is, do we have any stats on that yet? Do we know, it's probably making a decent amount of money for superhero movies?
So it blew out its own personal record for opening night, and already over this weekend, I believe it made more to eclipse its previous record for an R-rated film. So it's doing extremely well in box office.
Over 300 million worldwide right now.
Okay, awesome. I hope that does something.
That's a lot of chimichangas.
I hope that does something to influence maybe them reconsidering and bringing back Donald Glover's vision for an animated Deadpool series, because the fake script he released, if that is any indicator, that series would have been amazing.
Nice. So, you know, I would say for sure that I'm not going to like disagree with some of the things that Blewett was said, but I just enjoy this movie a lot. I mean, I think looking at a lot of the superhero movies, films itself, that it tried to do something different, but at the same time, like sticking to its guns, but then changing up a bunch of different things. So I think this was arguably one of the better sequels I've seen in a long time. And the majority of the only like sequels that we've gotten was either some pretty like really one-off and not very good kind of Fox films, whether it was Wolverine or the X-Men, and even sometimes Marvel's, sometimes their sort of second movies hasn't been that great. Iron Man 2, Thor, Dark World, not trash. Even like Avengers 2 wasn't even as good as Avengers 1. So it's nice to see like a movie kind of be better or on par, however you want to say. I thought it was better. My overall thoughts is going to be as better, but definitely go check out this movie. Definitely go watch it. I think this movie has to be watched also in theaters, but I also like this movie much like we talked about. I think Get Out. This is a community built movie. I think you sitting around talking with some friends, kind of drinking, having a good time, like whenever it comes out, like later on, not in the theater, right? You like talking through this movie of some of the funny parts is also going to like, you'll appreciate the movie more and more as the more amount of times you actually watch it. So definitely go watch it, please. And with that, we are the Down in Front Podcast, the official podcast of downinfrontpodcast.com. Bradley, where can you find more of your work?
You can find me on Twitter, where I team up with my new good friend Depender to take out pedophiles with taxi cabs all the time. That's at Bryland, BRILUND. Also post many movie reviews on Instagram at I am Bryland. And once I get everything ready to go, the Downfront Games cast is going to come back. That's going to be twitch.tv/downfrontpodcast.
Nice. I'm excited for that Games cast. I have something to do while working besides working. Mocha, where can we find more of your work?
Yes, you can find me on Twitter, kissing them like I'm missing them, at Mocha Mike LI. Unfortunately, you cannot find me at Mocha Mike. The person who owns that username is inherently lucky and has avoided all of my reports about inactivity, and so he still has it. So until then, it'll be Mocha Mike LI. You can also find me on Instagram at Mocha Mike, where I post some of my photography work, and follow me on Medium at Mocha Mike, where I write some long form versions of the reviews we talk about here.
Nice. Abbott, where can you find more of your work?
All over the internet. I do host the Fear Boners here at Down in Front Podcast. We recently started a new Twitter for Down in Front. The Fear Boners, DIFP on Twitter. You can find some horror recommendations there for you, where we also repost some of the episodes if you'd like to hear more about horror at all. check that out. Follow us there. And then everywhere else, I am the Abs Man, not to be confused with the Ass Man, which is probably actually just Wade Wilson in disguise.
And Blewett, what do you got?
Mocha, go ahead. You had something?
His ass was looking pretty tight in that Deadpool suit. This movie.
He's got a nice booty.
Dude, I love the little
Like
lip bike.
that.
Mocha's had a little lip bike for all the people that are not watching this live. Just like his ass.
Our boy's got an imagination.
That booty dough.
Dat booty dough.
Dat
So
booty
you
dough.
can find me on the internet at My News Music or My News Band on most major platforms. We are in fact trying to set up more so that you can reach My News in easier ways. If you want, you can also email us at Jesse Rand's Baby Legs at 163.com. Again, Jesse
Because
Rand's.
he never leaves his house. He never walks.
But one day, though, he needs the encouragement.
And we are the Down in Front podcast. Definitely go check out our work. We have been revamping. We are updating. We are putting more and more fun and hilarious content on our website. So that's going to be at downinfrontpodcast.com. Find us. We're literally on just about anything and everything social media. Facebook.com/downinfrontpodcast. On Twitter, it's the _DAFP. That's at _DAFP. For people who definitely want to support us, help us out and keep us recording, keep us floating. Definitely become a patron. All the patrons get kind of early episodes. They get bonus content, bonus episodes as well. Definitely go check that out. And just for the small donation of $1, Bob, you can definitely become a patron. Hang out with us on our Discord channel, and we can talk about anything movies and obviously non-spoiler stuff because no one likes spoilers here. So definitely go check out. That's at patreon.com/downinfrontpodcast. We have a Reddit. We have a brand new email, and we're actually going to be kind of finally getting to the point where we're going to be transitioning a lot of information over to put more and more work out. So please email us if you have any other questions. That's going to be at thecrew@downinfrontpodcast.com, and that's going to be great. So we are the Down in Front podcast, and for any and all of our work, make sure you watch the movie, you grab a drink, and you join the pod. Good night.